You know that old, terrifying proverb about family businesses? The one that keeps founders awake at night?
Let me guess. Shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations?
That's the one. The grandfather builds it, the father maintains it, and the grandson, well, he spends it. It's practically a law of physics in the business world. But I stumbled upon something recently that flips that entire script on its head. It's happening right now in Canton, Ohio, and honestly, it feels like a glitch in the matrix of succession planning.
A glitch or a deliberate hack? Because if you're talking about what I think you're talking about, it's not an accident. It's called skip generation transfer, and it is fascinating.
Exactly. Skip generation. We are seeing business owners, people who have poured 40, 50 years into a company, looking at their own children, the heirs apparent, and saying, you know what? I'm going to pass. Let's bring in the grandkids instead.
It sounds harsh when you put it that way, like they're just swiping left on their own kids. But when you dig into the data, especially in places like Canton, where you have these deep rooted industrial and service economies, it makes incredible strategic sense. It's not necessarily an emotional rejection, it's a survival tactic.
But hold on. Imagine the dinner table conversation. You're the son or daughter, you've been waiting in the wings for 30 years, and suddenly dad hands the keys to the factory to your 24-year-old nephew who just graduated with a marketing degree. Isn't that a recipe for a succession-style family feud?
You'd think so, but let's look at the reality of the timeline. This is the core of the issue. People are living longer, which means they are working longer. The founding generation, let's call them the grandparents, are holding on to the reins until they are in their late 70s or 80s.
Okay, so they don't want to retire at 65 anymore.
Right, so look at their children, the middle generation. By the time the founder is ready to step down, that middle generation is already 55 or 60. They have their own established careers. Maybe they're doctors, maybe they're lawyers, or maybe they just want to retire soon themselves. Do they really want to take on the massive stress of running a legacy business for just 5 years before handing it off again?
That's a great point. It's the sandwich generation problem. They're too old to start a new chapter as a CEO, but too young to just do nothing. So they're effectively being bypassed because of timing, not incompetence.
Precisely. It's a timing mismatch. But then you look at the third generation, the grandkids. They're in their 20s or early 30s. They have the energy, they have the hunger. And crucially, in a market like Canton, which is evolving from heavy industry to a more diversified economy, they have the digital skill set that the business desperately needs to survive.
That digital piece is huge. I wanted to ask you about that because we aren't just talking about handing over a set of keys. We are talking about modernizing businesses that might still be running on fax machines and handshake deals.
Oh, absolutely. Think about a classic Canton manufacturing firm or a local logistics company. The grandfather knows the product inside out. He knows the steel, he knows the trucks, but he might not know how to automate the supply chain or how to market on Instagram. The middle generation might be okay at email, but the grandkids, they are digital natives.
So it's almost like a symbiotic relationship. The grandparent provides the capital and the reputation, and the grandchild provides what would you call it? The update patch?
It's like putting a Tesla engine inside a vintage Ford Mustang. You keep the classic look, the brand trust, the legacy, but you completely overhaul the engine so it can actually compete on the modern highway. And there's another layer to this, specifically regarding the relationship dynamic.
The relationship between the grandparent and the grandchild?
Yes, think about your own life. Who are you more afraid of, your dad or your grandpa?
Oh, my dad, for sure. Grandpa was the one who gave me candy and told me stories.
Exactly. That dynamic bleeds into business. The relationship between parent and child is often fraught with friction. There's rebellion, there's the need to prove oneself, there's heavy baggage. But the grandparent grandchild bond, it's often based on pure mentorship. The grandparent is softer, more patient. The grandchild is more willing to listen because they don't feel like they're being parented. It creates a much smoother transfer of knowledge.
That is such a profound observation. It's mentorship without the teenage angst. But surely there are risks. I mean, we are talking about handing a potentially multi-million-dollar asset to someone who might have never balanced a checkbook before.
The risks are massive, and this is where professional guidance, like what you see with business brokers or transition advisors, becomes non negotiable. You can't just hand over the keys on a Friday and hope for the best on Monday. The biggest failure point is the golden child syndrome.
Where the kid thinks they hit a triple, but they were actually born on third base?
Right. If the grandchild walks in acting like the boss just because of their last name, the existing employees who might have been there for 20 years will revolt. They will eat that kid alive. So the smart families in Canton are structuring this as a buy-in, not a handout.
A buy-in? So the grandkid actually has to purchase the business?
Often, yes, or at least earn equity over time. It forces them to have skin in the game. It proves to the employees and the banks that this kid is serious. It changes the psychology completely. Instead of grandpa gave me this, it becomes I am building this.
I love that distinction. It turns a gift into a responsibility. But let's go back to the middle generation for a second. The parents who we were skipped, we brushed past them. But is there really no resentment? I feel like human nature isn't that benevolent.
It varies. In some cases, yes, there is relief. Thank God I don't have to deal with dad's stress. But in other cases, especially if there is significant wealth attached to the business, it can get ugly. It can feel like being written out of the will while you're still alive. That's why communication is the killer variable here. If this is a surprise revealed at Thanksgiving dinner, you've destroyed the family. If it's a 5-year conversation involving lawyers and valuations, it can work.
It seems like Canton is becoming a bit of a laboratory for this. Why there? Is it something about the Midwest ethos?
I think so. There's a pragmatism in the Rust Belt. It's less about ego and more about keeping the lights on. These families have seen their neighbors' businesses close down because the kids moved to New York or Chicago and didn't want the hassle. If they see a grandchild who actually wants to stay in Ohio and do the work, they grab onto that with both hands. It's about preserving the community as much as the family wealth.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about community survival. The business supports local families, not just the owners. If the business dies, the town suffers.
And don't forget the tax implications. I won't bore you with the IRS code, but skipping a generation can sometimes offer estate planning advantages depending on how the trust is set up. You're effectively avoiding one round of estate taxes by jumping over the middle generation.
Always follow the money. So, if you were a business owner in your 70s right now, looking at a 50-year-old son who is a tired accountant and a 25-year-old granddaughter who is a hungry MBA, you're making the skip?
If the granddaughter's willing to listen, absolutely. But I'd put her in the warehouse first.
The warehouse?
Metaphorically or literally, she needs to know how the sausage is made. The skipping strategy only works if the grandchild respects the legacy. If they come in trying to turn a welding shop into a crypto startup on day one, it's over. They have to respect the past to build the future.
It's a delicate balance, respecting the past while dragging it kicking and screaming into the future.
And that's why it's so exciting to watch. When it works, you get this incredible fusion of old school wisdom and new school agility. You see 60-year-old companies suddenly launching e-commerce platforms or rebranding for a global market, all because a 26-year-old is at the helm with an 80-year-old advisor.
It makes you wonder about the definition of retirement, too. For the grandparent, this isn't really retirement, is it? It's a promotion to chairman of the board.
Exactly. They get to keep their identity. They aren't former business owners, they are mentors. It solves the existential crisis of aging while solving the succession crisis of the business. It's a win-win, provided the middle generation doesn't burn the house down out of jealousy.
So, looking forward, do you think this is a temporary trend? Or is this the new normal for family businesses?
As long as life expectancy keeps rising and the pace of technological change keeps accelerating, this is the new normal. The gap between generations is getting wider in terms of skills. A 30-year gap used to mean a difference in musical taste. Now, a 30-year gap is a difference in understanding how the fundamental economy works. Sometimes you need to skip a generation just to find someone who speaks the language of the current market.
That is a staggering thought. The speed of evolution is necessitating the skip.
It is. And for the families in Canton, it's proving that sometimes the best way to move forward is to look a little further down the family tree.
It really challenges the traditional linear view of life, doesn't it? We expect life to go A to B to C, but business, like life, is rarely a straight line. Sometimes you have to jump from A to C to keep the story going.
And sometimes C is the one who finally writes the best chapter.
A fascinating look at how tradition is adapting to survive. We'll be watching to see if those grandkids can actually pull it off. Thanks for the deep dive.
Anytime. Keep an eye on Canton.
We certainly will. And to our listeners, are you ready to pass the torch? Or are you ready to catch it? Until next time.